Oh. Oh. Hello. Hello. Some of you have already noticed. I got the new emote added. I drew a new emote yesterday. Little revolutionary beaver for you. I don't know this if you know about Beaver, but he's quite a revolutionary. He's actually pretty woke. And it's me, It's me. Still no twerking beaver. It's a work in progress. We'll get that figured out. That one's just gonna take me longer to do. Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Thursday. It's Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. We've got a real interesting presentation for you today. We've got something fun cooked up for you, and I know it's not even Friday. We're going to talk about paradoxical ideation, which is something that most of you have probably never heard of. But if you have, gold star. Gold star to you. Who what now? Paradoxical ideation. But we'll get into that later. If you don't know what that is, that's fine, because that's the first slide as we tell you what that is, so you don't have to worry about that part. All you gotta know for now is that we're gonna be talking about how to utilize the paradoxical nature of human existence to your benefit. A fun, new, exciting way to think about your brain. That's what we're going for. Right. If you don't get it now, that's fine. I understand. And I'll explain it more when we get to it. But just as a little sneak peek, the idea behind it is right now, inside your mind, you probably have some beliefs that go against each other. You might have some that are the complete opposite of each other. You might have paradoxical beliefs. And so, in order to feel more peaceful, in order to feel more sense of agency in our lives, we're going to work with it. We're going to work with the mystery. We're going to work with the paradox instead of trying to work against it. If that sounds weird, it's because I am weird. But the idea itself, it'll make more sense. Chat, let's see that new emote. Let's see that new emote. Let's get those flags up. Let's see that socialist beaver. What do you think? Do you like it? I was working on it yesterday. I finished it this morning. Now I can hang with all the other socialists. I have the mandatory red animal holding a red flag emote. I can now claim to be amongst the socialists. Until now, I've been a fake socialist. It wasn't confirmed until I had the actual emote. Yep, finally on the right side of herstory. Drinking coffee. Oh yeah, I got a big cup of it. Big old Garfield cup. Using their brain domain 16-ounce mug. Only the real ones. The realest ones. People are saying that coffee tastes better from a brain domain mug. Now I can't confirm or deny. But people are saying it. All right. Well, I got the question box pinned. No questions yet. No questions yet, which must mean... That must mean we solved mental health. We did it. No questions. No questions. You know what that means. I'll just go play hooky. I'll just go play hooky. I'll just go finish... Well, probably not finish. I've probably got a long way to go in the game. I've been playing God of War Ragnarok. Long game. Pretty long game. I'm playing Claire Obscure. I have that on my PC. I haven't started it yet. I'm probably gonna wait until after I beat God of War. I've also been thinking about that new Dune game, but I kind of just want to wait. You know, I'm not really in any hurry. I've heard good things about Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. I gotta say, that's definitely a name. Dune game. The makers of Conan Exiles made a sandbox PvP open world crafting survival type game called Dune Awakening. But I think I'm just gonna wait till it goes on sale. I think I'm just gonna wait until it goes on sale. Or until they update it to just have, because it's either you play on the open world servers with everybody else, you get a private server through one of the dedicated private server hosts. You can't host your own servers though, and I don't think you can play it offline or single player. Which, that's kind of more my speed. I like to be able to pause a game and then get up and go do stuff and then come back to it and not have to worry about the game continuing to go when I'm not there. What can I say? My multiplayer survival open world crafting early access days are behind me. Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Open world, survival, crafting, early access. Chat, we got a question in the box. Nobody panic. Everybody, quick, places. You know the drill. You know the drill. Everybody, places, everybody. It's question time. How do you handle a coworker who is ignorant and racist? Give me just a second. I'm thinking about what I want to say, but I'm just allowing that to exist within my head for a moment before I say what I should say. I'm thinking about what I want to say. But now I'll say what I should say. How do you handle a coworker who is ignorant and racist, who likes to rile me up? We got into an argument last night. As a sensitive person, it really bothers me that she can get under my skin. All right. They probably like to rile you up. They probably like it that they can get under your skin. So try not to give them what they're looking for. What I find to be more helpful in dealing with this type of person is to, instead of express frustration with them and their abhorrent beliefs, what I've found to be more helpful is to express concern. Are you okay? Who says that type of stuff? Why would you even think that? What makes you think that's okay? You know, I'm gonna show you, like, I'm concerned for you. Like, your belief system is 200 years out of date. And so I'm gonna handle you like I'm gonna handle an 85-year-old man walking around in the park looking dazed and confused. Sir, are you okay? Is there someone I can call? Do you know where you are right now? They want to drag you down so that don't don't go down to their level. You gotta try to rise above it. Because for some weird, twisted reason, whenever they make you feel riled up with whatever they have to say, they feel more validated in their beliefs. You getting angry at them for believing what they believe doesn't help them to change their beliefs at all. Now, since this is a coworker and not just a person, it might also be helpful to document these types of incidences. If there's anything they say that's especially inflammatory, if there are things that you want to, raise some concerns for, the higher ups at the company or wherever you work, that may be an option. But in some places it's not. In some places, this is like a small business, or it's just something that's like, you don't really have that corporate structure. And so if that's the case, don't forget, you have the power to just walk away. I'll talk to you about work stuff. Anything other than that, just keep it to yourself. You don't have to give them that validity by taking time to engage with them. Another effective strategy is when somebody's on some bullshit to just walk away. Just don't even humor it. Just don't even take the time to acknowledge it. Just, because sometimes they're not there to listen, they're not there to learn, they're not even there to have a conversation, they're just there to talk at you for some reason. And so just, protect your energy. We want to do what we can to help people to not be ignorant and to not be racist, but we also have to pick our battles. We gotta pick our battles, I've got one more for you. Use this one at your own discretion. If you're not wanting to get confrontational, I would say to just start off by just not listening to them, just walk away, just end the conversation by leaving the conversation. But if you do want to talk to them, when somebody says some messed up stuff, act confused by it and ask them to explain what they mean. If they just casually say something racist, have them explain it to you. Like, hold on, what did you just say? I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? Just pretend this is the first time you've ever heard anybody say something like that before and just act confused by it. Ask them to explain it. Ask them to elaborate. It's like, oh, you pulled out some bullshit. I'm gonna make you smear it all over yourself. Like, I'm just gonna make you really get in there. I'm like, okay, you wanna talk about this? I'm gonna just ask you questions about it. What do you mean by that? It's a very powerful question. The reason why that can be useful is because it actually gets people to start to think about their fucked up beliefs instead of just believing their fucked up beliefs. They're like, now hold on a second. Why do I feel that way? Why do I believe that? A little bit of strategic ignorance. Just saying things like, what did you just say? I'm not sure I heard you correctly. Could you say that again? Okay. And what did you mean by that exactly? Now, this is a technique that the cops sometimes like to use, but you know, we're gonna borrow from the whole feigned ignorance to get you to give away too much information technique. We strategically play dumb. My BF's stepmom is so ignorant and racist, no one takes her seriously, even her own kids. See, the thing is that you should take her seriously. Not because you agree with her, but because she's promoting some fucked up shit. We should take that seriously, especially when it's a member of our family. You know, with a coworker, we have a little bit less that we can do. This is just some other person that we happen to work at the same place together. So it's like, okay, at the end of the day, like, if I don't put in a whole lot of effort and work in order to try to fix your viewpoints, it's like, okay, not that big of a deal. But it's somebody that you have to deal with, you know, somebody that's in your family, somebody that you interact with all the time, somebody that interacts with your other family members. That's something you should take seriously. I think there's an important distinction between telling someone it's not okay to say that versus telling them, or rather asking them, what makes you think it's okay to say that? We want to try to be less accusatory, and we want to try to encourage people to be more introspective. And so when you're dealing with somebody with outdated beliefs, ask them questions about those beliefs, because they probably haven't thought about them that long or that hard. And so we are going to try to get them to think more about their beliefs, with the long-term goal of changing those beliefs. So instead of saying something like, you can't say that, that's racist, just instead ask them, what makes you think it's okay to say that type of thing? Well, it's the First Amendment. We got freedom of speech. Actually, hate speech isn't protected. Free speech doesn't actually mean free speech. It means mostly free speech. Is that what you think the Founding Fathers had in mind when they said free speech? Freedom to be racist? Well, kinda. Alright, we got a YouTube link here. Let's see what's going on here. Question? I'm turning 40 in a few days. It's been a very depressing year for me. Currently seeking shelter from heat. The library is closed today. The shelter has been chaotic. I need to resubmit paperwork for their alternative housing because of a management change. I think I might be assigned to the overflow sleeping area soon since I've been here for 6 months, but I need to double check that policy too. I appreciate any insight and advice. I still haven't found a way to make income, but I think I'm getting closer. Thank you for listening. Reclaw. Happy almost birthday, Reclaw. This little bit of advice isn't so, well, it's not very much direct, but it's more so catered towards like working or living within this type of system, you know, when you're accessing public resources for housing and food and those sorts of things. Whenever you meet with somebody, whenever you talk to somebody, ask them if there's anybody that they could recommend that you also talk to. Because a lot of the people who work within social services, they know people. They're friends with somebody else who works at the agency down the road, or they know somebody who works at a place across town. And so networking is a huge part of really tapping into all of the resources that are available for a person, because they're not always so readily available, like just listed somewhere. You know, and there are more resources out there than you might fully be aware of until you actually start looking for them. You know, if you're looking for income in the agency, might be a good place to start. Might be a good place to look. Anonymous, thank you for gifting that sub to Reclaw. I'll have to ask more. I bring that up, the whole like networking aspect of it, because that's how it worked whenever I worked in the system. Like, if I needed to help somebody find something, I was asking other workers, like, hey, do you know anybody? Or, because that's how you find stuff. So a lot of places will have like lists of resources available online, but those lists are very rarely up to date. They're very rarely like updated regularly. And so you might find these like resource guides, but a lot of the numbers might be disconnected or outdated, or you know what I mean? So just anybody that you get a chance to talk to, you know, any caseworkers, any social workers, any of those types of advocates, just ask them, hey, Is there anybody that you can think of that I should talk to for this thing that I'm looking for? Or, I'm just let them like, hey, I'm also looking for, some temporary work, or I'm looking for some housing resources or some food resources. Is there anybody that you could recommend that I talk to? Because they might know somebody, and they might be able to help you get an in. Even if you're not a religious person, a lot of local like community churches will have resources. You gotta go in, you gotta talk to them, or you gotta know who to call. Now this is one of my favorite one of my favorite uses of like a church system. As much as I like to gripe about organized religion, I have met some really great people that work at small local community churches that do a lot to help the community that they are a part of. Whether it be sheltering people, feeding people, helping people to find work. So it's nice to see a church do what a church is supposed to do. My shelter is a church. I have a caseworker I haven't interacted with in a while. I need to check in with her again. I just don't know when she's in. That might be a good goal for the next day or two, is to just try to get an idea of like, how can I readily contact you? Like, what's a good time for us to... Because if you have, unstable living arrangements, sometimes it's nice to have a standing meeting time or a time that you can check in or contact your caseworker. Like when I did homeless outreach and, I had to go meet with people who were just out in the community, sometimes we had to set like, okay, I'll meet you here at this time, at this place, because they might not have access to a phone or to a ride. And so it was just... or maybe just asking for opportunities to help within the agency itself. A lot of times these community resource places will also have opportunities for like temporary work or, at least something to just help you make connections with people and, stay busy. Professors in grad school was the director of a men's homeless shelter, and they also ran a landscaping company. And so you were able to work for the landscaping company, make yourself some income while also taking advantage of the shelter. Now that's just one example, but I know that there are other places out there like that. And it's not always the ideal situation, but for a lot of people it's, it's better than the alternative. But no, I think talking to a caseworker would be a good place to start, just so that they're on the same page as far as what your needs are, what you're working on. And just to see if there's anybody that they can help you to get in contact with. I need to flag her down. I think that'll be a good goal for the next day or so. Just to strengthen that line of communication. Caseworkers can do a lot of great stuff, and I say that because I was one. But no, the thing about caseworkers is that they often have a pretty big caseload, and so sometimes in order to, access the assistance that you need, you kind of have to be a squeaky wheel. So if you need help, don't feel bad about being a squeaky wheel. She helped me get some appointments this year, stuff like vision that I needed. Nice. And so it sounds like you guys already have a working relationship, so I think, just try to strengthen that line of communication, just so that you know, like, when and where and how we can touch base. Having a good caseworker can make all the difference in getting out of a tricky situation. Hey everyone! I have an update on my dad cheating on my mom. We've been gathering the evidence, and today she is getting information from the attorney about how to move forward. She told me recently that he already cheated on her when they were in college, and then again 3 years after they got married. They got married in their early 20s, and now they are almost 60. He's managed their joint finances, and we're starting to realize how secretive he has been with it, and how he has funneled my mom's money, who has been their breadwinner their entire lives, into secret meetings, Venmo payments, gifts, and hotels for sex workers. He's clearly never communicated this with my mom, and it's tough seeing how hurt she is through all of this, because she is an incredible person who doesn't deserve this. Right? Like, just the level of betrayal and disrespect that goes into this. To take someone else's money and to use that money to cheat on them. That's so incredibly hurtful. To somebody that you were supposed to, dedicate your life to. Damn. I hope your mom's doing all right. My mom is holding on to hope that he might change one day and not be like this. I understand having hope. But we're looking at something that has been chronic and persistent. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a calculated effort. There was a lot of thought and a lot of planning that went into this. And so this doesn't come across as just like a little mistake, something that we can bounce back from. Like, oh, I got drunk at the work party and no, it's there was an MO here. There was malice aforethought. My mom is holding on to hope that he might change one day and not be like this, as it seems like a lot of this stems from him avoiding his mental health issues. The things men will do instead of go to therapy. It blows my mind. Men will pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to alpha male boot camps and get sprayed with a hose. Men will elaborate these, massive schemes to funnel their wife's money into an affair. Just all sorts of things that men will do instead of go to therapy. Never ceases to amaze me. Like, I have mental health issues. I guess I better just do something very wrong. I feel like I never knew him because he was a shitty parent, barely communicating with me, having my mom be the sole parent responsible for everything me and my sister's life. Now it feels like I finally know him better than I ever did because his actions just speak to his character more than anything else really did. I think a big takeaway here is that you found this out and it just, as shocking as it was, it still wasn't that big of a surprise to you that this sort of thing would happen. As eye-opening as this was, it probably still felt like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Now, I want to a really important part of mental health is believing in somebody's ability to grow and change. But I just also want to be mindful of the fact that when something's been going on for 40 years, that could take a little while to change. This is pretty, All I can say is he's got a lot to make up for. I truly don't see him changing after she confronts him, and I wish I had answers to my mom when she asks why he did this. Does a cheater like him, who is almost 60 years old with narcissism and possible undiagnosed personality disorders, change? How do I help my mom through this when every day for her is filled with so much sadness? Alright. Let's answer all these questions. We'll take them one at a time. Can a cheater like him, who's almost 60 with narcissism, change? Anything's possible. But he has to want to change. And part of that means he's going to have to acknowledge and accept accountability for everything that he's done. If what he does is play victim, if he acts like he's the real victim here, that's going to be a red flag. Sometimes when you confront a person like this, they turn on the waterworks. They turn it into a pity party. I'm just so messed up. I just couldn't help myself. I've just been struggling. And they just will make it all about them and make it feel like they're actually the victim or they're actually, you know what I mean? And so if that kind of stuff happens, don't fall for it. Don't play into those games. He knew what he was doing. It's important to note that every step of the way on his end involved thought. He had to think about reaching out to these sex workers. He had to think about where to get the money to pay them. He had to think about how to keep it secret. He had to think about how to plan it and how to go about it. And so this wasn't just something that he did on a whim. This isn't something that he did impulsively. This was something that had a lot of thought and planning put into it, and that's just something that is going to be really important for him to acknowledge if you're going to have any chance of him changing. So I guess let's talk about it this way. What would it look like if he actually did want to change? He would have to come clean. He would have to own up every single thing that he's done. And he would have to do everything possible to try to make amends. He wouldn't be allowed, like, you can't just put this off on other people. You can't turn this into a pity party. You can't frame it as if you're actually the victim here. So I guess you're just gonna have to see how he responds. Because I feel like there is gonna be a part of him that's gonna be very defensive, and he's gonna try to deflect, or he's gonna try to blame somebody else. Because oftentimes that's what people like this will do. You know, you finally caught him, and it's like, well... Anyway. How do I help my mom through this when every day for her is filled with so much sadness? I think just you being there and being around her and just spending time with her really means a lot. You know, she might not be ready to talk about it right now. She might just, you know, but just be there. Just be available. You know, try to spend time with her that's fun. You know, try to take her mind off of all of this stuff when you can. You know, just spend some quality time together. I feel like that'll really mean the world to her. You know, so it's not about saying the right thing. It's just about being there. It's about showing up. Oh, hi, miss. How's it going? She's here. She's here. Special guest. She's here. Are you gonna sit on my desk, miss? Here you go. Here you go. Lay down. Get comfy. Right now, your mom is grieving. Your mom is in a state of grief right now. She's dealing with a loss. There's going to be anger, there's going to be sadness, there's going to be confusion. And so, just be there. Just be present. You know, just let her confide in you. You know, just tell her that you care about her. Tell her that you love her. When you're trying to help somebody cope with grief, it's more important that you're there than it is about saying the right thing. You know, oftentimes when we're with somebody who's grieving, we might have a hard time figuring out, well, what could I possibly say that would make them feel better? And it's not necessarily about saying the right thing. It's just about being there, being present. So, is it possible for somebody like your dad to change? Yeah, I believe that anybody can change if they want to change. He has to genuinely want to change, and he has to acknowledge all of the things that he's done. He has to be accountable for those things. He can't blame other people for those things. Mental health can provide an explanation for someone's behaviors, but it does not make an excuse for someone's behaviors. You know, so if he did this because of mental health symptoms, that doesn't excuse what he did. It can explain what he did, but it does not excuse it. Trying to figure out why interacting on social media makes me feel deeply uncomfortable. Well, I love this question. I love this question. I'm gonna really go off the rails with this one. But hold on, let's keep reading first. I'm trying to figure out why interacting on social media makes me deeply uncomfortable. It seems to be an increasingly prevalent thing. From LinkedIn for professional advancement to dating apps for meeting new romantic interests. I don't have that much anxiety interacting with strangers or groups in real life, so I'm not sure what makes social media different. If it was up to me, social media wouldn't be a thing, but it's not up to me. I feel like social media has gotten so bad. Social media used to be fun. It used to be about connecting with your friends and your family and sharing pictures and staying up to date. And now it's all hot garbage. Social media has always been somewhat performative. You know, we're trying to portray this image of ourselves so that we can impress other people. You know, I want other people to see how much fun I'm having, how well I'm in, living my life. I want people to see how much I'm thriving. And social media just feels fake. You know, it's full of advertisements and bots and people with misleading intentions, people trying to get you to join multi-level marketing schemes, people trying to sell you drop-shipped goods. You know, you can tell that the whole thing now is just about people trying to make money. And that ruins it. The thing about social media is that it's like an ocean, and within that ocean, there are going to be little islands of refuge, you know, places you can go and little corners of social media where you can have fun and things can still feel meaningful and genuine, but you feel like you're surrounded by a sea of bullshit. Is it a bad thing for an artist to use it slash to try to gain popularity that is sort of about money, but art seems less capitalist? Social media can be a great way to put yourself out there and to promote your work and to share it with other people. But even that just isn't what it used to be. Like nowadays, you have to be mindful about posting your art online because you're just feeding it into an image algorithm and they're just gonna steal your art style. It's just, social media was invented for people, by people, and people ruined it. And so, if social media makes you feel uncomfortable, I feel like it should. That's good that you feel that way because you are aware of how disingenuous it is. You're aware of just how nonsensical it is. Woodler's here. What's up, my guy? Polonius, thank you for the 13 months. I think for me, the tipping point was realizing that social media, like the platforms that uphold social media, they care more about collecting your data than anything else. You know, they don't even really care if their app is usable or functional. They want your data so bad. They want to know how to advertise to you better. They want to know how to sell you more shit that you don't need. They want to know how to target your insecurities so that they can exploit your emotions. And just the whole thing just feels twisted. It's just got this air of insidiousness to it. You know what I mean? It just feels like the people who run it are not in it for the right reason. And you feel that. Good. Somewhere along the way, social media stopped being a product and we started being that product. You know, and so if you use social media, you are not the customer, you are the product. Definitely feel that every time I get a PragerU ad on YouTube. PragerU should not be allowed to exist. PragerU is just terrible. Did you know that there's even a PragerU for kids? If you're unfamiliar with PragerU, it's like PragerU is run by I think the guy's name is it Dennis? Is it Dennis Prager? I forget. It's not actually a university. It's basically just a conservative propaganda outlet, and you know they target people with just the same fear-mongering bullshit that you'd see on an average run of Fox News. But not only that, they have a children's channel so they can start indoctrinating the children early. Story time with American values. It's white nationalism for dummies. White nationalism is for dummies. Imagine being such an idiot that you are contingent on the fact that at least my skin color makes me superior. Like, just imagine being such a useless fucking imbecile that you need to rely on the fact that your skin color grants you privilege. Anyway, now you know that PragerU Kids exists. So, do with that information what you will. Imagine thinking that your ancestors getting stuck living so far north for so long that they literally became mutants is some kind of supreme quality. Yep, I can't stand outside for more than a few minutes without getting sunburned. I must be a part of I am the people that should be running this world. It's like, really? Okay. Let's just go stand outside for an hour and see who's more equipped to actually, live on this planet. The drug-like rush of being in an in-group does a lot to people. People want so desperately to belong, and it has to do with the fact that we're social creatures. We're biologically wired to feel social pain in the same way that we would feel physical pain. We need to belong to the group, because if we don't belong to the group, our chances of survival go down. And so, for many people, it's more important that they belong to a group than it is about what that group actually stands for. I'm white, I can say this. If you weren't, I'd give you the pass. Even if you weren't, I'd give you the pass. Did we watch the new Luscious King? Oh, I'm sure Casey will watch it with you later. It's more her thing, really. I do love Luscious Massacre, though. I've had a therapist for over a year, and she says it's okay to text her anytime I need, which I have done a few times in the past. I want to get an emotional support animal letter so that the pet payment can be lowered for my rent. Would it be too strange to request it by text, or should I email? I don't need to provide a form or anything, right? No, you don't, but sometimes it's nice to do that. How about this? How about this? send them a text that says, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I emailed you something. I sent you an emotional support animal letter, and I was just hoping that you could take a look at it and sign it. And so if you're able to, feel free to just email it back. No need to respond to the text, just whatever. You know what I mean? Just sometimes it's nice to just let somebody know, like, hey, by the way, I sent you an email. Nothing urgent. Just when you have time, just feel free to check that out. Her birthday's today? No, Casey's birthday is in December. But if you want to celebrate her birthday today, that's fine. Is today her half birthday? It might be her half birthday. Happy half birthday. All right, let me show you something real quick. My husband's birthday is December. My sister's birthday is December. December people are the goat. No, actually, they are the centaur. Sagittarii, the fiercest warriors of the cosmos. All right, so you probably don't need to send a template letter to your therapist because they can probably find one on their own, or they probably have one that they've used before, and so I wouldn't feel the need to send them one. And so, I don't know, there's a couple options here what you could do. I might text them about it and just be like, hey, when you have a chance, is there any way that you could write an emotional, you could sign an emotional support animal letter for me and then email it to me? No rush, just send them a text and ask them to send it to you in an email. And then maybe offer to send them a template if they need one, but again, I don't think that they would need one. They can probably find one on their own because there's tons of them. You can also have ChatGPT make one for you if you can't find one that works for you. But no, I would just send them a text and say, hey, I was looking into getting an emotional support animal letter. When you have a chance, could you send one to my email, please? If you need any additional information, please let me know. Thank you so much. But no, you shouldn't have to send them a form or anything. Like they can find one, or they can type one up, or they can find a template, or they'll figure it out. I don't think it would be strange to request it by text. But if you guys also email and you're okay with it, you know, just, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like either one's fine. As long as you're not blowing up anybody's phone, I feel like it's not that big a deal to just be like, hey, I'm just sending you a text to let you know that I was hoping that I could get an animal support letter. When you get a chance. And then you could send it to my email. Going pontooning with my sister in a couple weeks. She asked me what I wanted her to pack in the cooler, and I told her some DNL. Oh yeah, brother. I don't know what that is. DNL? It's upside down 7-Up. The story behind this was I took my last kid of DNL on a pontoon boat with Aaron, and he went to toss it to me while I was floating in the water, and it sank to the bottom of the lake. You can't go pontooning without some DNL. It was pretty good. It was basically Mountain Dew flavored drink. What's pontooning? Oh, a pontoon boat. Good old pontoon boat. Go out on the lake, swim, eat potato chips, do a little bit of sometimes you go under the boat. Fun. Oh yeah, if you it's a fun thing to do in the summer. You go out on a boat with some people, you have a good time, hang out for a few hours. It's always a lot of fun. A lot of places out here will rent them, so you just you can like rent a boat for the day, because owning a pontoon boat is expensive. You have to like get it licensed, and you have to pay to keep it someplace. And so, you know, just as a bit of a general rule, if it floats, it's probably better to rent it. No, that sounds fun. Summertime favorite. Hell yeah. BOAT, bust out another 1,000. BOAT, bust one again, Tony. Wait. BOAT, Big Orange Angry Tabby. Tanu's here. Tanu, did you see the new emote? Show Tanu the new emote. Tanu's gonna love it. Finally have a revolutionary beaver emote. That's cute. Oh, thank you. I drew it yesterday. This is work in progress. Final product. We've been letting Newton do a bit more free roaming. Apparently, like, he was just waiting outside his cage this morning, just waiting for his breakfast. Alrighty, well, we're caught up on the questions for now, so how do we feel about a present? A presentation? We're going to talk about something that might sound a little weird. But trust me, it's for a purpose. We're going to talk about the power of paradox. So if you're ready, find yourself a seat, get comfortable, grab a snack, grab a sody pop, go take a big stinky dump. Do what you gotta do. Made it just in time, and we were waiting for you. Alrighty. I really enjoy this presentation. I hope you'll enjoy it as well. This is probably going to be new for a lot of you, and I find that to be really exciting. This also might sound a little strange in the beginning, but don't worry, we're gonna explain it. So don't worry, you're gonna be an expert by the time we're done. All right? So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about something that sounds more complicated than it is. It sounds more complicated than it is, don't worry. Let's talk about paradoxical ideation. Doesn't that sound complicated? Just the name itself sounds kind of complicated, doesn't it? The good news is that it's actually not that complicated. It's one of those words that sounds fancy, but it doesn't actually. All right, so let's talk about what that means. What is paradoxical ideation outside of a fancy sounding word? Well, it is the process of intentionally engaging with your contradictory or opposing thoughts. So what does that mean exactly? Well, recognize that within your brain, you have beliefs that may go against one another. And we'll give you some examples later. We're going to get into some like common examples of these types of beliefs later, so if you can't think of one right now, that's okay. But you might be able to think of one off the top of your head. What we mean when we say paradoxical ideation is we're actually going to intentionally engage with those types of thoughts instead of avoiding them, instead of resisting them. We're going to explore them so that we can understand them and so that we can find balance and meaning and peace. What this means is that we're going to hold these seemingly opposite truths in our mind without immediately trying to resolve them. We're going to explore both sides of the belief. If you're still scratching your head, that's okay, but don't worry. I feel like once we go over some examples of what this is and how it manifests, it'll make more sense. One of the things that this does is it challenges your brain's natural tendencies. Our brain has a natural tendency to try to make sense out of stuff, to try to find a resolution, to try to find the answer. But instead of doing that, what we're going to try to do instead is sit with that ambiguity, which can naturally be a little bit uncomfortable. We don't like it when something is unresolved or unknown. But by facing those things, we can actually find more peace. This mindset allows us to deepen our understanding of ourselves, and it helps us to deepen our understanding of others. It's all about appreciating nuance and complexity. Is this related to cognitive dissonance? Gold star. It is. It is related to cognitive dissonance. You were right on the money there. Gold star for you on that one. You're absolutely right. It's closely related to concepts like cognitive dissonance, dialectical thinking, cognitive flexibility. This also kind of ties into metacognition. Remember, we did a presentation, was it yesterday? No, it wasn't yesterday, it was last week. We did a presentation last week where we talked about metacognition. We were talking about thinking about our thinking. And we're trying to recognize, what are these conflicting beliefs that I hold on to? Instead of just picking one and going with it, let's explore both of them so that we can try to appreciate that nuance and complexity, and so that we can find a clearer image of, who am I really? What do I really believe? What type of person am I? I've heard of cognitive dissonance, but not cognitive flexibility. What's the difference? Cognitive dissonance, you've said you've heard of that one, and cognitive dissonance is when we hold on to two different conflicting beliefs at the same time. Cognitive flexibility is being open to exploring new pathways of thinking. You know, it's about being more open-minded and less rigid in our thinking. You know, being open to the idea that maybe my understanding of things is incomplete, because it probably is. Can I ask about something? I dream about something every night for the past year. An unresolved trauma. How do I make my subconscious stop thinking about my trauma? I would encourage you to talk to somebody who specializes and understands trauma. Because the thing about that is that you can do that. You can process that trauma. You can, because the thing about trauma, especially when it keeps coming back up and it keeps bothering us, we feel like we're still stuck in it. We still feel like we're reliving it. There are types of therapies that can help to essentially move that trauma to a different part of your brain instead of being stuck in the active, short-term, real-time memory processes. It is able to move to the long-term memory storage. And so it doesn't feel like this is still happening. It feels like something that did happen. So, why is this topic important? Well, the human experience is full of contradictions. This is important because it allows us to recognize the confliction and the contradictions within our belief systems. I'm scared, but I want to try. I love them, but I'm angry. I want to live, but I feel hopeless. Many mental health struggles worsen when people try to force clarity or certainty too soon. I just want to let that one soak in for a minute. Why do you think that that might be? Why would forcing clarity or certainty backfire with our mental health? Maybe we're becoming certain of the wrong thing. You know, maybe we're moving towards the answer that's convenient rather than the answer that is accurate. Maybe we're healing around the wound instead of actually healing the wound itself. Maybe we're reinforcing our own errors. We love to have answers, we love to find resolutions, and sometimes we'll settle for an answer or a resolution just because it's there, just because it's accessible, rather than because it's the ideal one or the closest one to being accurate. A mental health journey is all about learning how to understand yourself, but you also want to be open to the idea that I'm always going to be uncovering new things about myself. I am learning more about myself, but I will never know myself completely. I don't want to put myself in a box. I don't want to limit myself. I don't want to create self-fulfilling prophecies. And so you don't have to settle for an answer just because it's convenient or available, because it might not always be the right one. People will find comfort in an answer even if it's the wrong answer. Like if you're trying to pick a multiple choice answer on your test and you have no idea, and your friend's like, psst, it's C. You don't know if it's actually C, but just feeling like, okay, well, they said it was C, so I'm just gonna go with C. I feel better making that choice, even though the actual answer was A. All right. When we open up to paradoxical thinking, this allows us to experience more emotional nuance, psychological spaciousness. We're going to explore both sides of our mind. It can help us to navigate stuff like change, grief, uncertainty, shifts in our identity. It expands our capacity to hold multiple truths. It's also a sign of psychological maturity and growth, learning to sit with contradictions. As Meredith Brooks said, I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint, and I will not be ashamed. A little bit of everything all rolled into one. Let's give some examples of where paradox might show up in our thinking so that we can understand it a little bit better. It often shows up in our relationships. We have these paradoxical beliefs. I want to be close to people, but I also need space. When you learn to appreciate both sides of these beliefs, you can recognize that, okay, sometimes I want to be close, sometimes I need space, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be just one thing all the time. I can appreciate the depth and the nuance that exists within me. And that's what this is all about. Recognizing that certain times, certain places, certain beliefs. This can also pop up when we are thinking about our growth. We might want to change, but also be afraid of change. Even if it's good change, it can still feel uncertain. It can still feel frightening. This can also show up in our grief. We can feel the devastation of that loss, while simultaneously feeling a sense of relief that they are at peace. This also pops up in our self-worth. I accept myself as I am, but I can still recognize that I have areas for improvement. Hopefully some of these examples make this a little bit easier to understand, because I get it. The whole idea can sound a little bit off the wall just as you read it, but I feel like having some tangible examples helps us to understand it a bit better, right? Just understanding, like, I have conflicting beliefs all the time, and it's not about just picking one and going with that because that's the right answer. Both can be true in their own ways, and I need to be willing to explore both in order to understand myself better. I'm going to embrace the complexity instead of demanding simplicity. This also manifests in our anxiety. What if the worst happens? What if I can handle it? Lastly, this also really shows up in depressive thinking. That feeling, that belief that I don't care about anything, while simultaneously caring that you don't care. I notice that I don't care about anything, but that bothers me. I care that I don't care. So this whole presentation is just about being aware of these paradoxes that exist within our beliefs and being open to exploring that ambiguity so that we can find where the real answers are. These examples are good because they are non-binary. Between each paradoxical idea, there's a continuous spectrum of beliefs rather than a binary either or. Exactly. We're learning to celebrate our own complexity and celebrate our nuance. Our brain loves having an answer, and sometimes it'll settle for a simple answer because we don't like the unknown. We don't like we don't like ambiguity. But this is about embracing ambiguity. All right, here are some more examples. I went heavy on the examples with this one because I really just want to make sure that we can recognize some of these thoughts. So here are some that you might be familiar with. The more I try to relax, the tenser I get. Chat, if you find any of these relatable, please just give us a cot in the chat. Just the more I try to relax, the tenser I get. An Amish saying, the hurrier I am, the behinder I get. Quick side note, this also kind of speaks to the importance of surrendering to certain emotional states. Relaxation, for example, isn't something that you can force because that's just you putting tension into it. The best way to relax is to just let it overwhelm you, to just surrender to it instead of trying to fight it. That's an idea that I've been working on for a future presentation, the power of surrender. Because there are certain emotional states where you have to let them overwhelm you. And we don't like to feel out of control or overwhelmed. but that can actually inhibit us from feeling our full range of emotions. Take joy, for example. Joy is an emotion that you have to surrender to. You can't try to fight joy. You know, if something is happening in your life or you're experiencing something that is joyful, you have to just allow it to exist. You have to let it run over you. Because if you fight back against it, you're gonna win. So you have to let it win. If you fight back against your joy, you are going to win. You know, if you're just gonna be like, well, I can't be happy because insert reason here. Congratulations, you've won. You've defeated joy. But if you want to feel joy more deeply, let it win. What about things like extreme rage? Couldn't surrender be dangerous? Well, obviously. I'm talking about the importance of surrendering to positive emotions. Or surrendering to things that might be more productive outside of, you know, bloodlust. Sometimes you just need to let your sadness overwhelm you so that you can feel it properly. So that you can actually start to process and heal those feelings. How about this one? I feel better when I stop trying so hard to feel better. Also, going back to what Rogue Swan said, when it comes to emotions like anger, rage, you know, it's important to understand that those are a secondary emotion. There's always something underneath the fear. There's always something or underneath, not the fear, not underneath the anger, underneath the rage. And for most people, it's fear or grief or sadness. And so while we don't need to surrender to those secondary emotions, we need to understand what the actual emotion is underneath and allow ourselves to feel that one so that we don't need the anger anymore. Taking out the trash for this topic interests me too. Very curious about the future presentation. It'll be a good one. Don't worry, it'll be a good one. It's about, you know, feeling satisfied with relinquishing control. Think about it this way. You're playing a game with a little kid. Now, sure, you could just destroy them in the game because they're not that good. But doesn't it feel nice to let them win and just see how happy they get when they win? Like, isn't that a little bit more satisfying than showing a 5-year-old that you're so much better than them at a game? It's kind of like that when you try to fight joy, you're fighting your childlike self. It's not hard to overcome a child in an argument. You know, it's not hard to outwit or outmaneuver a kid. But sometimes, for the sake of fun, for the sake of happiness, you let them win. Reminds me of when I used to play Mortal Kombat with my little sister. I would play Mortal Kombat with my little sister, but I would let her win. You know, because it was fun to see her happy that she beat me at the game. Like, of course I could have won, but that's not very fun. Alright, how about this one? I'm lonely, but I also don't want to be around people. That's what Twitch is for. That's probably why we all find it so relatable. How about this one? Letting go of control makes me feel more in control. When I have to practice more. But let's think about it for a minute. Why would letting go of control make you feel more in control? If you've ever tried to be in total control of something, you've probably realized that that is a futile effort. Sometimes letting go of that desire or that need to be in control of everything can actually help you to feel more in control of your life. I don't feel the need to micromanage myself. I can just allow myself to be. This is also some Lao Tzu type knowledge. If you like this idea, if you like this mindset, this philosophy, you should look into the Tao Te Ching. Not Tawade Chang or whatever my subtitle said. The Tao Te Ching. There we go. There we go. So just following orders? Not necessarily. I don't mean just following orders. What I mean is recognizing that some things are just going to be out of my control, and I can be okay with that. We have this innate desire to have things be predictable, to have control over things. And what's really important to recognize is the only thing that I'm truly in control of is me. And so if I let go of my desire to have control over all of these things outside of me, how people feel about me, what other people believe, what other people are doing with their time, it allows me to be more in control of what I actually have control over. How about this one? In order to heal, I had to stop trying to fix myself. Going back to lurking, I don't like being in this presentation. If you leave it at that, though, this presentation is all about pushing back against those avoidant behaviors. If this presentation makes you feel some type of way, good. It's the right presentation for you. The more I accept myself, the more I'm motivated to grow. How about that one? I'm motivated to grow, but not great at the accepting self part. It's about accepting where you are right now and recognizing your ability to grow, recognizing your ability to change, recognize your ability for things to get even better. When we're trying to do some radical acceptance here. I am here. This is now. I am who I am today. Tomorrow I could be somebody else. The more I accept who I am right now, the more excited I get to see who I can become. You see what I mean? I start to see myself as somebody who deserves those things, who deserves that growth, who deserves that improvement. A lot of what stymies our growth is feeling like I don't deserve to get better, I can't get better, it's just not for me. But the more grace and compassion that I'm able to show myself, the more I'm motivated to grow and improve and learn. If I want to get to where I'm going, I need to know where I'm starting from. And so the sooner that I can accept where I am right now, the sooner I can start moving to where I'm trying to go. It doesn't really serve us to try to convince ourselves that we are anywhere else aside from where we are right now. vacillate between a rosy and a black pill view of myself so much, then this honestly sounds like the presentation for you. We're gonna explore both sides of those beliefs. Because that's what this is all about. It's about recognizing that some days I feel this way and some days I feel the complete opposite of that. So let's parse those out. Let's try to figure out what's really going on. Like, I have accepted the fact that I can be a very kind and, nice person most of the time, but when it's necessary, I can be an asshole. Like, when the situation calls for it, like, yeah, I can let the monkey out of the cage. But what if nothing changes, though? What if I'm stuck forever? Change is inevitable. No one is stuck forever. Because that's not how our brains work. Our brains are always slowly, gradually changing. It could be changing in the direction of, I am reinforcing my existing beliefs, and so I just further and further continue to reinforce and believe that I cannot grow, I cannot change. And even in doing that, I am changing. I'm just going further and further into that belief. Or I can go in the other direction. I can start to challenge those beliefs. Just look at how much change happens all around you. Change is inevitable. It's just about in which direction are we changing. So in which direction would you like to change? What's the first step in that direction? If the situation calls for it, is it still asshole-ish behavior? That's a good question. Sure, it might be justifiable. Sure, other people might think that you did the right thing. But I would still feel like an asshole because I feel like, you know what? I hate that things had to go that way. I hate that there wasn't a better option. I hate that I had to bring out that side of myself. You know what I mean? I hate that I had to dust that off and bring that out. But even an asshole has a purpose. Sometimes you gotta take a big dump. If you feel like nothing ever changes, try to find a single thing in the entire universe that is actually unchanging. I cannot think of a single thing. Everything in the entire universe is constantly changing all the time, and that's kind of cool. You're no different. You are a product of the universe. You are a different person today from who you were a year ago. You're going to be a different person a year from now. Your brain is constantly rearranging and rewiring itself. It's always changing. So embrace it. I want to take a moment to talk about some ways that this mindset is used in a therapeutic context. Let's talk about logotherapy. The idea of paradoxical intention actually stems from the works of Viktor Frankl. We've talked about him before. He wrote a great book called Man's Search for Meaning. He applied existentialism to psychology. He took his experiences of surviving in a concentration camp during the Holocaust, and he took what he learned and applied it in a way to help people. And so his use of paradoxical intention encourages people to move towards their fear in order to reduce their anxiety. And we can use things like humor and perspective shifts. We're trying to defang our fear. Like, okay, so this is what I'm afraid of. So what would I do if that happened? This kind of ties back into something that we talked about yesterday. We were talking about paranoia and how difficult it can be to treat paranoia. We were talking about how difficult it can be to treat paranoia. Because just telling somebody that nobody's following you, nobody's watching you, it's like it doesn't do anything. And in many cases, that can actually just end up driving the fear forward. It's like, oh, well, you're trying to convince me that nobody's watching me. And so now I think that you're a part of it. And so I'm just going to cut off contact with you as well. And so it can be very frustrating for both the patient and the practitioner. And so sometimes when it comes to stuff like paranoia, we want to try to approach it in a different way. Okay, so what if people are watching you? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to live in fear? Or are you going to show them just how you're living life? Are you going to show them that you can have fun? Are you going to show them that you're not afraid? Maybe I should put on a show for them. You know, if people are watching, let's put on a show. Let's give them something to talk about. Sometimes it's important to help a person reduce their overall stress level as it's related to their symptoms before you start to get them to challenge their symptoms. You know, if we can find a way to make a person less stressed about their paranoid ideations, then maybe we can start to challenge them. But if you're like very stressed and very caught up in this delusional type of thinking, maybe that's not the right time to try to convince you that no one's after you, no one's watching you. So maybe instead, let's say, you know, let's try to work with it. Let's try to go through it. Just think about it. Just, okay, so it's got to be somebody's full-time job to watch me. Some stuffy guy in a suit sitting in some CIA office somewhere, that's their full-time job to watch me. Well, I guess I'll show them just how much fun I can have. I'll show them me going to the park. I'll show them me getting ice cream and reading a book and playing with the dog. So what if I sound stupid? I'll show them I'm not afraid to come back and keep talking. You know, sometimes there's a benefit to being underestimated. Sometimes there's a benefit to people underestimating you. And so it's not always a bad thing for people to think you're stupid. Because then you can surprise them. All right, another form of therapy, it's called acceptance and commitment therapy. This is all about making space for those uncomfortable thoughts. We accept those uncomfortable thoughts. I accept that these thoughts exist, but what I'm going to do is I am going to act in ways that are aligned with my personal values. So I am going to accept the thoughts as they exist, and I am going to commit myself to acting in ways that align with my values. And so by understanding the paradox, I can reduce my overall resistance. I don't have to fight it. I can understand that this is just something that's happening in my brain, as you know, and as I work through it, things will get better. What if you're afraid of something like planes? The feared outcome is a crash. Well, that's probably something that you're going to do, you know, more gradual, stepwise type approach to that. It's like, before I get on like an 8-hour flight, let's work our way up to that. Let's go to the airport. Let's just go watch planes take off and land. You know, let's just observe all of the flights that happen where nothing happens. This type of thinking is also used in DBT, good old dialectical behavior therapy. What they teach you in there, amongst other things, because there's a whole array of skills that they teach you in DBT, and that's why it's such a cool program. They've got like an outline, they've got a curriculum. But one of the things that you learn in DBT is how to hold on to two truths simultaneously. I can hold on to the truth, I'm doing the best I can, while also holding on to the truth, I need to do better. It's about synthesis rather than resolution. It's about accepting that I'm a work in progress. I don't need to demand perfection from myself. I don't need to have this finalized idea of who I am right now in this moment. I need to embrace the paradox. Very meditation coded. It's true. In DBT, they actually do teach you the importance of mindfulness. You know, so there are some meditation skills that go into the DBT program. Just being aware of your thoughts, taking time, or teaching yourself to take the time to respond rather than react. Because a lot of what happens to people is they have a thought and it creates this powerful emotional response within them, and then that just fuels the next thought and the next emotion, and you get caught in this cycle of self-doubt, of guilt, of shame. And what's really helpful is learning to just put some space there in between the thought that I am experiencing and how I should feel about it. What should I do with this thought? Do I want to keep it as it is? Do I want to reframe it so that it works for me a little bit better? Or do I want to let it go? Have I outgrown it? Let's just take a moment for mindfulness. I am here. This is now. Let's try to envision our trajectory. Where are we headed from this moment that we are in? Are we headed to a place where we can show ourselves compassion and patience and kindness? What direction do you want to head in? What sort of thought seeds do you want to start planting? Which areas of your mental garden need tending? Maybe there's some weeds to pull. Maybe there's some dead branches to prune. Take a moment to pause. Just think about that next step. Let's talk about paradoxical interventions. These don't really tie into any particular form of therapy. These are just some things that can be done in different styles of therapy, but these also lean into that paradoxical viewpoint. A technique such as prescribing the symptom. An example of that being encouraging a client to worry on purpose. Which sounds paradoxical. You're trying to teach somebody to not worry. But what you're doing is you're helping to disrupt these control patterns. You're helping them to foster acceptance. I want you to go worry on purpose so that you can practice handling worry in a controlled setting. That's not something a therapist has ever said to me, worry more. Well, this is something that you're going to want to do strategically, because the thing about therapeutic interventions is different stuff works differently for different people. And for some people, this type of stuff does really help. That's like when they tell you to schedule your worrying, pretty much. And what you'll notice is that it does work. It sounds silly, but it does work. It's like, okay, if I'm gonna worry today, I'm gonna give myself, 30 minutes, an hour to just worry. And then once I'm done, I'll move on. It helps you to feel more in control of those feelings. You're not invalidating those feelings. You're not trying to resist or avoid those feelings. You're acknowledging these feelings are real, these feelings do exist, but I'm going to engage with them when I have home field advantage. I will pick the time and the place where I start to interact with those feelings. Oliver Sacks wrote about a surgeon who scheduled his tics. That's another good thing that you brought up, because think about tics, for example. Like, one of the ways to reduce a tic is not to try to not do it, but rather to try to gain control over it. You're trying to bridge the parts of your nervous system that are just automatic and reflexive with the parts of your nervous system that you have manual control over. You're trying to create that bridge between the two systems. What's a good time Whenever works for you. But if we're going to schedule time to worry, we should also schedule time to relax. And so let's make sure that we're scheduling time for both. When I'm at the gym works best for me. That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Channel it into productivity. You know, if you're gonna watch the news, go watch the news at the gym. You know, if you're gonna, like, at least, you know, it'll help you to channel that restless energy into something that's productive. And it'll also help it to tire you out so that when you do go back home, it's easier for you to rest. A lot of fantastic brains in this chat. A lot of big, beautiful brains. A lot of BBBs. My captions are stuck. Okay, now they're unstuck. There we go. Alright, so these are just some examples of how this type of paradoxical thinking is actually a part of different styles of therapy. So if you weren't keen on the idea or it just didn't make much sense before, I just want to let you know, this style of therapy is used. You know, it is used in different schools, so just so you know, it's okay to embrace the paradox. Alright, so let's talk about how to work with it. Let's talk about what we can do to work with it. Mindfulness is really important here. And mindfulness is all about awareness. Whenever we're caught between opposing thoughts or emotions, we want to try our best to notice when that is happening. Instead of resolving that tension quickly and just trying to pick one resolution, try to stay with it. Try to just be curious about both sides. Ask yourself these sorts of questions. What if both are true? What if there's value in each perspective? An example of this would be, part of being a better person means acknowledging and understanding the ways in which you might be a not so good person. You know, maybe sometimes I can be a little selfish, a little self-serving. Maybe sometimes I can be a little bit, you know, just understanding that about yourself, understanding your areas for growth so that you can improve even more. And so this is why we want to try to explore both sides, not because, you know, not because we need to believe both, but because the different perspectives can help us to uncover things about ourselves that might be laid a little bit more deeply. Also, if you're a politics head, the term both sides is probably a trigger for you, so I should have put a trigger warning in here for all of my political frogs. Uh-oh, both sides. You just both sidesed mental health. Uh-oh. Radical centrism strikes again. Doing things like journaling, art, taking time to practice some mindfulness allows us to explore those contradictions without rushing to conclusions. We want to recognize and accept where we are, but also appreciate that we have areas for improvement or growth. Because it's not about being perfect. You're not locked in the way that you are right now. You're going to change one way or the other. But it's important to understand as genuinely and as openly as you can where you are right now, so that you know what direction to head in. Take all the time you need in figuring yourself out. I would say, I can confidently say this, one of the biggest things that I've personally noticed as a hurdle for people who are trying to improve themselves or work on themselves or make their life better or just, to feel better, to feel happier, whatever it may be. One of the biggest hurdles I've noticed for those people is that they are so certain of who they are right now. They are so certain of all of that doubt. They are so confident in their own lack of confidence. And so when it comes to understanding who we are, we don't have to rush it. We can take time to figure that out because we should. We are complex. We are nuanced. We want to understand ourselves as deeply and as meaningfully as we can. It can be helpful to put this into a dialogue. Give both sides that voice. Part of me feels this way, and another part of me feels this way. Part of me feels pretty good. Part of me feels like shit. Part of me feels like a good person. Part of me feels like the worst person that's ever existed. You gotta understand that those feelings are a part of you. They do exist. So let's just explore it rather than try to run from it, rather than try to just bury it away. By exploring it and processing it, that actually helps to find that resolution that you're looking for. All right, let's hash it out. Which one is it? Where am I really? We want to look at inner conflict as meaningful data. This is an opportunity for me to understand myself more deeply. I can identify my areas for growth. This doesn't mean that there's something broken within us that needs fixing. It just means that we've got areas for improvement. We've got room to grow. And that's a good thing. Let's talk about some of the psychological benefits of embracing this viewpoint. This sort of paradoxical ideation. Benefits include an enhanced emotional tolerance. It also helps you to become more resilient. You're less fearful of contradiction. It's okay to realize that I'm just a little bit caught in the middle. Life is a stage and love is a riddle. When we embrace paradoxical ideation, it also helps to free us from that black and white thinking. Black and white thinking is often something that underlies anxiety, shame, judgment. We have this very rigid way of looking at ourselves, at the world, very harsh, very critical, very judgmental. And so we want to be open to some nuance here. Maybe I do have room for growth. Maybe I'm not a perfect person, but that doesn't mean that I'm terrible. It doesn't mean that I need to feel as badly about myself as I do. In fact, I can actually feel better about myself because I'm genuine with myself and I'm committed to growth and change and improvement. Another really helpful thing is just how well this helps us to understand ourselves better. And it does this by facilitating insight. We become more aware of our repetitive or cyclical thought patterns. Instead of getting caught in the loop, we become better at knowing where the loop is and knowing how to navigate it without getting stuck. It helps us to build more compassion for ourselves. We're embracing complexity. We're letting go of perfectionism. It also helps us to be more creative problem solvers. Whenever we start to view things from different perspectives, we can find new solutions. And lastly, it helps us to face our uncertainty. We become more comfortable with not having immediate answers. Oh. Hi, Miss Poopy. You're doing your stretch and turn. Go ahead and lay the other way. There you go. Good kitty. All right, let's bring it on home. Bring it on home. Paradoxes, they don't have to be confusing. Embracing them is actually an important part of our growth. It just takes some time. Little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be all right. All right? Growth often begins when we stop trying to figure everything out, and we start to hold more space for that complexity. Let me just ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you have yourself completely figured out? Have you ever felt like you're entirely certain about who you are? And does it make sense that that is something that you don't want to do? I don't think so. I feel like a lot of people feel that way when they get really caught up in anxiety or depression. They become very certain that, this is just how it is. They don't see a way out of it. They feel like they've got an understanding of where they are and what they're dealing with, and this is just going to be how it is forever. The paradox of paradoxes is that sometimes by opening up room for complexity, things actually feel more simple. When we're willing to sit in contradiction, it's a sign of emotional depth and strength. I can recognize that I'm not perfect, that I've got room for growth, but I'm also going to celebrate that. I accept where I'm at. I'm also excited to where I get to go. Some of our most transformative insights arise when we stop choosing sides and start listening inwardly to those different parts of ourselves. Those parts of us that might be insecure or uncertain or afraid. We want to listen to those parts of us so that we can understand them, so that we can learn why they're hurting, so that we can tend to them, so that we can heal. Instead of avoiding them or trying to drown them out or trying to convince ourselves that they don't exist, we're going to try to embrace these different points of view so that we can understand ourselves better. Acknowledging and accepting our own insecurities is what helps us to become more secure. Sometimes the only way out is through. Quotes that I live by. Anyway, chat, this has been our presentation. Hope you have enjoyed. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, let's hear them. What's on your mind? What are you thinking? This is a technique that I've found personally very helpful, recognizing and understanding my conflicting beliefs. Especially the ones that refer to, how I view myself, what I believe about myself. Just exploring both of those viewpoints so that I can understand what I need to do in order to move forward. If it was so easy to just pick a belief, things would be much more simple. Like, if I get to pick between do I like myself or do I not like myself, I think I'm gonna pick I like myself. There you go. We're done. We figured it out. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way. And so there's going to be parts of you that believe, I like myself. There's going to be parts of you that believe, I'm not really sure about me. I don't really know if I like this person. We want to try to listen to both parts of us so that we can understand ourselves better and so that we can understand where we want to go with that. Back from singing karaoke and having a couple of drinks. Which karaoke song did you do? I need to know. Always on my mind. That's a good choice. Not a bad choice. Anyway, you're just in time for the end of the presentation, so... A Finnish song I probably don't know? You're exactly right, I do not know it. Exactly right. Anyway, I want to know what you think. What do you think about this idea? What do you think about this presentation? What do you think about this information? I guess what I want you to take away from this is that it's okay to have conflicting beliefs about yourself. And part of what can help you to resolve that is to not just pick one, to not just go with what sounds better or what you would rather prefer. We have to explore both sides so that we can understand ourselves, so that we can work through those things. We want to embrace the paradox rather than insist on certainty. We are complex, nuanced life forms. So we gotta remember that. All right, well, we're caught up with the question box and we're through the presentation. Hold on, let me refresh because okay, yeah, no, we're good. All right, so let's take a quick break. I'm gonna take a quick break. I will be right back. We have a few minutes to drop some questions in the box. Enjoy these cats. Feline intermission. Feline intermission. Get your questions in. I'll be back in just a minute. All right. We're back. This. Miss, if we got a Roomba, would you ride around on it? I bet you would. I bet you would. Well, chat, we're still caught up with the questions. I guess we've finally done it. Solved mental health. We did it. And it only took us 5,678 questions. Oh, wait. Oh, we got another one. False alarm. False alarm. False alarm. All right, places, everybody. Places. You know the drill. Robin, thank you for subscribing, by the way. Welcome in. So, I'm developing crushes for the first time in my life, in my mid-20s. Guess my childhood was so weirdly religious that I just could never feel those feelings. I was chronically depressed. Yeah, I think when you're a child that grows up in a religious institution, they try to redirect those feelings. They're like, you don't need to be worried about other people. You just need to worry about your relationship with Jesus or Allah or, whoever. Whomever. I was chronically depressed. Oppression typically does make a person depressed. Anyway, I had a crush last summer. The whole butterflies and can't stop thinking about him situation. It was devastating because he wasn't single, and I just had a hard time getting over it. Never thought I would. That guy is probably a really good friend of mine now who I care about a lot. I now have a different crush, and it's kind of a relief to know that I can move on and be interested in other people, and that other people have the qualities that I tend to crush on. This whole situation has allowed me to pinpoint the exact moment the seed for the crush was planted. With the first guy, I was very stressed about and upset with work. I snapped at him and immediately apologized, and he took the time to grill me about what was wrong without allowing me to dismiss it. With the second guy, I said customers were mean at work that day. He could tell I was visibly stressed despite me trying to joke about it, and again took the time to grill me about who had been rude. So we like it when somebody encourages us to be emotionally aware and accountable. Those are good qualities to view in a person. We want to be with somebody who encourages us and motivates us to be our best self, rather than somebody who enables our stinky behaviors. Now, asking about my feelings seems like a pretty low bar to set for what makes me have a crush, but there are other things in common. They're competent, hard workers, they respond to coworkers when they ask for help, they do the parts of the job that lazy people don't want to do, etc. And they have assertive personalities. Not in an authoritative way, but they don't stand around when things need done or people need help. They aren't assholes about it, but they can take charge and are dependable. Reminds me of you. I think I have talked about my previous crush on here before, and it's nice to know what you said was true. There are other men out there with those qualities that I am attracted to. Rare to come by, and still super stressful having crushes. I think I feel the feelings very bigly, and it makes me behave weirdly and have obsessive thoughts. Like I genuinely barely know this guy, don't know his political or religious alignment, don't know if he has a partner, but I don't know how to handle these thoughts. You are attracted to the qualities, and that's okay. But we want to make sure that we're not idolizing a person, because people are always more complicated than that. This kind of ties into the presentation we did today. Paradoxes. So, how do we handle these thoughts? I am attracted to the qualities that this person has. In knowing that, I should take the time to get to know them better to make sure that they're not all talk. I believe that in most cases where we idolize somebody, we put them up on a pedestal, that's a very certain way to find ourselves feeling hurt or disappointed. You know, because even if they have all of these qualities, they're still a human. They still have their own flaws. They still have their own shortcomings. They have their own areas for growth and improvement. But yeah, I think it's good that you see these qualities in a person and you recognize them and you want to, celebrate, and you're drawn towards those characteristics. I think this also serves as a reminder of what type of person you want to be. We like to see in others the things that we like to see in ourselves. And so I would take these moments of insight and just allow myself to explore those feelings and allow this to be an opportunity to understand myself better. Because I feel like you can learn a lot about yourself by examining these feelings. You can learn a lot of good things about yourself. You admire these noble traits in people. You're drawn towards those types of characteristics. That's a good thing. I also think, recognizing those traits in other people and then working to embody those traits within ourselves will help us to attract the type of person that we really want to be with. Whenever you see something in somebody else, something that you're drawn to, something that you appreciate, something that you admire, try to embody that within yourself. Try to be the type of person that you would want to be with. So I think it's important to understand these feelings and to not allow ourselves to get carried away by them. Take this as an opportunity to learn about yourself, to learn about other people, to learn about what you like. But also remember, it's okay to shop around. It's okay to shop around. You don't have to buy the first car on the lot that you see that you like. Check out some of the other styles. Check out some of the other models. Maybe go on some test drives. And I feel like that's kind of how a crush works. It's like you see something and you're like, ooh, I like that. This is the one for me. Because we have this worry that I'll never see that again. I'll never see something like that again. And so I need to go with this one. If I don't make this one work, I'm never going to find anything like it again. And that's not true. And we're learning that. So it's okay to shop around. It's okay to go on some test drives. We don't have to rush these types of decisions. And we can take these moments as an opportunity to understand ourselves better. It seems like you're able to recognize the good in people, and that's a good thing. Oh, you're admiring some pretty noble attributes within these people. That's good. Shows that you got a good heart. You got a good head on your shoulders. It's gonna take you places. Kind of fading out with this shirt. It's camouflaged. I'm wearing my outer space camo today. Can't see me. Can't see me. I blend right in. Joke's on you, I was right here the whole time. Fool. Gotcha. Oh. It's time for Miss Poopy to rotate again. There you go. Rotate. So, what are your plans? What are you doing for the rest of the day? Let's just chat for a bit and we'll just hang out and just vibe for a moment while we wait and see. While we wait and see if any more questions pop in. Have anything fun planned for the rest of the day? Trying to decide what I want to make for dinner. Oh wait, no, I'm gonna make grilled chicken. That's what I'm gonna make. I have this panini press, and I've discovered that if I debone a chicken thigh and then cook the chicken thigh in the panini press, it gets this really nice crispy crust on it. It's delicious. So I'll probably do that with some... Not sure what I want to do with it, though. I take the skin off? I don't. I leave the skin on, so it's skin on, but I take the bone out. I take the bone out, and then I throw it in a little Ziploc bag, and I keep it in the freezer to make chicken stock. But I cook it in the panini press with the skin on, and it gets the skin crispy. I had Costco rotisserie chicken. Costco rotisserie chicken's good. Also, you can get some real honkers for $5. Whew. I made chicken salad with one this week, saved the bones for stock. Ooh. Have you ever done a dark chicken stock? That's where you do it, but you cast a necromantic spell to invoke the soul of the chicken. I'm just kidding. It's, Before you make the chicken stock, you roast the bones in the oven. It'll get you like a dark chicken stock. How did I become a badass cook? Well, shout out to my grandparents for allowing me to have unrestricted access to the kitchen from the time I was like 8 years old. They used to just let me go wild in there. I got to explore the spice cabinet. I got to experiment with, cooking different stuff. I cooked a lot with my grandpa. He would show me how to do stuff. Watched a lot of cooking shows. But yeah, just experimenting and, learning what you like and what you don't like and what tastes good and what doesn't taste good. It can also be helpful to start with recipes that are very forgiving. If you aren't an experienced cook, I would say start by cooking soup. Soup can be very forgiving. You can put just about anything in it. If you over season it, that's okay. Just add more water. If it's under seasoned, just add more season. My parents were terrible cooks and I learned nothing. If anything, that could serve as a motivator to help you learn how to cook, growing up in a household where the cooks just weren't that good. You're like, I know food should taste better than this. I feel like I can make that happen. You've, reminded me of a childhood memory. One of the things that my parents would occasionally make was red beans with rice. And so it's just like chunks of ham, beans, and rice. And I always hated it growing up. Not because it's bad, but because it just wasn't good the way that they made it. But I remember it was always so frustrating because the smell of it cooking, it smelled really good, but it did not taste good. And so red beans and rice can be really good, but the way that they made it was not very good. It was just the smell of the cooking ham that was like, that smells good, what's for dinner? And then it's like, oh. A bowl of underseasoned slop. No, I remember just smelling it cooking and being excited for dinner and being excited. It's like, oh yeah, it smells so good. And then you're like, wait, what the fuck is this? What happened to what I was smelling? Not seasoned enough for it. Oh yeah, no, I had... I have always had a refined palate. Where do they grow? Beans? On a vine, I think. I think it was just an under-seasoning issue. Because not everybody in my family was a bad cook. Like, there were good cooks in my family that did know how to season. And honestly, the biggest, most simplest lesson that I learned in cooking: try stuff and see what tastes good. try stuff and see what tastes good. You know, even if you're not that confident in like seasoning stuff or picking which seasons or spices to use, it's okay to grab like a spice blend. Like I use spice blends. I'm not going to criticize anybody for, you know, using a spice blend and seasoning their food. You know, find one that you like. But also look at the ingredients and just see what's in it and then, you know, work with that. It can give you an idea of like what types of flavors work together. Don't be the person who tastes with the same spoon they mixed with. Disgusting. Alright, but what if it's boiling? What if I was already going to give you a big fat kiss on the lips later? Does that make it okay? Do you think that a sufficiently different palate is a justifiable reason to end a relationship? Yeah, I'm not cooking 2 meals. Fuck that. I ain't cooking 2 meals. Some people will be out here cooking 2 dinners every night. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. They're like, well, they're vegetarian and I'm not vegetarian, so I cook my meal and then I cook something separate for them. I'm like, They prefer bland, non-seasoned food, but you like spice. You're gonna have to get used to it. You're gonna have to acclimate. I'm gonna season it to where it tastes good, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. Now, I do understand, like, spiciness, like heat. Like, okay, some people can't do heat. That's fine. I don't have to make it spicy. If I want it to be spicier, I could always just, like, put some hot sauce or some chili flakes on my serving, and that's fine. This might be a controversial take, but I feel like we are too tolerant of picky eaters. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. I think we do too much to coddle picky eaters. I'm like, you're not 5 years old. You can eat stuff aside from chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. You can develop a palate. It's not gonna kill you, it's just flavor. Now, as long as it's not like, you know, you have some sort of allergy or some sort of dietary restriction and you can't have those spices or those flavors because of some, like, actual, like, medical need, like, sure, okay, I respect that. That's fine. But if it's just because you just don't like it, I'm not gonna baby you. I'm not gonna baby you, okay? We're not just gonna eat boiled chicken, alright? And it always blows my mind. There's people out here boiling chicken. Oh, I could understand doing it if you're making like chicken soup or something, but I don't know why you would ever boil chicken otherwise. Unless you're feeding a dog. It's good to remove all the leftover bits from the carcass. True. You know, if you're gonna boil the carcass so you can make a chicken stock, then yeah, boil that chicken. But I'm talking about people who are like boiling chicken breasts. I'm like, a nice boiled chicken breast, some white rice, and some steamed broccoli. Like, why do bodybuilders eat like they hate food? Spices add like 5 calories. You're really not missing. Like, you're not doing that much to disrupt your macros, brother. Doesn't this just look so good? Just look at the way that the chicken skin is just like flabby and congealed. Doesn't that look tasty? Oh yeah, some nice white rice. There are so many different ways to cook chicken. Boiling is like why? Like, why? Like, if you're gonna shred it, you know, at least cook it in cook it in something other than just water. You know, like make a nice little stock or a sauce or something. Try to absorb some flavor. My ex did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and ate like that religiously. I didn't get it. Some people find nobility in suffering. Some people adopt this, like, seek discomfort mindset. You know, they feel like, I'm growing stronger by tolerating discomfort. I don't like things to be enjoyable, so I'm just gonna eat boiled chicken and white rice. Food is fuel. Alright, time to go to BJJ and get my ass beat. I'm serious though, that's what dudes will be doing up in the BJJ. They go to those Brazilian Jiu-Jitsus and you just get your ass kicked for like 8 years and then they give you a belt. There's an important virtue in seeking discomfort because that allows you to expand your comfort zone. But this does not mean that you need to live in a constant state of discomfort. Now, a lot of people take that idea and run with it, and they kind of go in the wrong direction with it. point of seeking discomfort is to expand your comfort zone so that you can be more comfortable, not so that you can just remain in this perpetual state of discomfort. I've literally heard men say stuff like, well, today I'm doing this because it sucks. I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm gonna take an ice bath. I'm gonna go for a 20-mile run. Like, all right, brother, go get him, Tiger. Go get him, Tiger. Men can just be so funny sometimes. Their different approaches to mental wellness. It's just kind of funny sometimes. Like, sometimes they'll be so close, but still just like so far off the mark. This close. So close. Almost. Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's Friday. Who's excited? Tomorrow's Friday. Figure out what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Try to make it fun. You know, for the kids. Alrighty, everybody. We're all caught up with the questions, so I think I'll call it there for now. I'm gonna go make some dinner. I'm gonna go give Newton some outside time. Go let him explore around outside. I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you. Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe out there. We'll see you all next time. We'll be back tomorrow. Better not be putting any flavor in that fuel. So don't worry, I'm not going to put a single bit of seasoning in my food. I would never. Life is suffering, and I'm here to suffer, all right? Alright, everybody. Have a great night. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Don't forget the new emote. We could use that as a raid emote. Don't forget that new emote. Alrighty. See you later, everybody. Try to have some fun tonight, okay? Try to have some fun. Have a great night, everybody. See you all next time.